rev limiter quick. We're doing some miles an hour. Surely I'm not too old to drive the car now. I'm wearing a jacket and a cap. Or should I be wearing it that way? Some mechanical sympathy with cars, particularly when they're my own, and of course I'm not going to be revving this car whilst it's cold. It's a lovely evening in Derbyshire. I thought let's go for a drive. So the full name for this Clio is a Renault Clio RS 220 Trophy EDC, and the EDC stands for electronic dual clutch. Now the automatic transmission in the Clio RS is actually manufactured by Getrag. It is a 6-speed automatic, and because it's a dual clutch it has always got the next gear ready, which of course improves the speeds of the gear changes. Let's get into sport. The engine's warmed up now. What I like about this Clio RS is it's not actually manufactured in the Renault Flynn's plant. Now the Renault Flynn's plant, where they manufacture the standard Clio, I think they have about 3,500 employees. The Clio RS is actually built in a much smaller RS Renault Sport plant in Dieppe, where I think there's about 400 employees, and I rather like that. It's built alongside the Alpine A110 because of course Alpine is owned by Renault. It's an unusual decision for a car manufacturer to do because ultimately it's rather expensive to build the same car in two different plants. But I do like the fact that this is built at Renault Sport's own plant. Now I have always loved fast French cars. I think back to the 205 GTI, particularly the 1.9 GTI, that weighed nothing more than probably a Coke can, and even that was with a Coke can with the ring pull removed. And it was absolutely fantastic to drive. It was a very quick car. I think it was around 7 seconds 0 to 60, which at the time was actually very good indeed. So of course there was the Renault 5 GT Turbo. That did 0 to 60 in around 7.5 seconds. But that did only weigh in at around 800 kilos. The Clio that we're sitting in today, of course with all its safety equipment and the aircon and everything else that's fitted, weighs in at more like 1200 kilos. So there is a lot more weight for the engine to pull. But it pulls it really well. So the 0 to 60 time of this Clio Trophy is not class leading by any means. It's 6.6 seconds. But I think rather than focusing on 0 to 60 times, it's more about how it drives. There is a theatre to driving this car. The sounds, the bangs, the pops, they're not overly intrusive. They're just enough to build the excitement when you're driving along at a healthy rate of knots. The handling is excellent, but of course as it's a trophy it sits on a cup chassis, so it's a very stiff chassis and it picks up every little nook and cranny on the road. If you suffer from a bad back, it's not the car to drive. Am I too old to be driving this car? What if I'm wearing this? Or this. Surely I'm not too old to drive the car now I'm wearing a jacket and a cap. Or should I be wearing it that way? Or maybe not. But I do like having my Renault jacket and my Renault cap. So the Fiesta ST has a 0 to 60 of 6.5 seconds. That's for the current 3-cylinder model. So that's only 0.1 seconds faster than this Clio. And I think the Mini JCW comes in at 6.2 seconds. So again, they're natural competitors for this car. Of course, the Fiesta's handling is absolutely excellent. It's always a class leader. But I do think a Clio Trophy with its Cup chassis would give it a run for its money. Particularly with the tyres that are fitted to this, because they are super grippy. Michelin Sport Pilot 4s, and they're absolutely excellent. They just don't seem to want to let go of the tarmac. Right, let's build the revs up again. Do you know, I don't frankly care about 0 to 60 times. This thing drives absolutely fantastic. Now, of course, and I know other people will have said this already, the purists will say that they don't like the fact that the Clio was only available, or the Mark IV Clio RS was only available with an automatic gearbox. And I understand what they're saying, but sitting here now with a smile on my face, enjoying this drive, I would question how I could change gear in this car quicker than the GetTrack gearbox is doing for me. The paddle changes are very positive. To me, they are immediate. Now, the gear changes are quicker when it's in sport mode. Of course, left in automatic mode, it might not choose the gear that you want it to be in. But if you stick it into sport or race and you start using the paddles, those changes are pretty much immediate. There's no way that I could. I mean, I've been driving cars now for many more years than I care to remember, and I've driven so many different cars and owned so many cars. I could not change gear as quick as this Clio RS. The steering is well weighted. It's doing a pretty damn good job at telling me what the pointy end is doing. The brakes I would call good. They're not as sharp as maybe sometimes I would like them to be, but of course it is discs all round, and they do a decent enough job. I guess for me, driving this car, particularly as I'm currently 53 years of age, is it just brings a smile to my face. If this car had existed when I was in my late teens, early 20s, I couldn't have afforded it, and I certainly couldn't have afforded the insurance to keep it on the road. But I would have wanted this car. Of course, in my day, I was lusting over Fiesta XR2s and 205 GTIs. But again, at that point in time, I couldn't afford them, and I couldn't afford the insurance. Whereas now, the insurance for me is very respectable. In fact, to be quite honest, I'm not paying particularly more than I'm paying for the Toyota Yaris. The only thing I'm going to say is with sport mode, it's better if you're using the paddles, because when I backed off back there because I'd reached the speed limit and maybe just a tiny little bit over it, I wanted the engine to then change up, but it didn't. It kept going with the revs being quite high, and I guess because it's in sport mode, it will hold on to the gears longer, but the car doesn't realise that I've had my fun and I just wanted the gear to change. So it's best to stick to using the paddles when you're having fun in an RS Clio. So what do I really love about this Clio, and what maybe I'm not so keen on this Clio? Well, of course, from a love point of view, it's the driving, and ultimately, if you're buying a Clio RS, you're obviously buying it because of the performance of the car. You want it to put a smile on your face, and it does a really good job at doing that. Yes, of course, you pay the price for fuel consumption. If I'm having fun, I'll be lucky to get much over 30 miles per gallon, but then I'm having fun, so it's worth paying that little bit extra. On a steady run, if I wanted to be really gentle with my right foot, I could get it sort of close to 50 miles per gallon, but you just don't buy a car like this to do 50 miles to the gallon. I love the handling. The setup is very stiff. I love how this car sits on the road. It looks like it's slightly lower at the back, but ultimately it sits so nice and low, and the 18-inch wheels that's fitted fill the arches really nicely, so I'm not about to get this car lowered anymore. We're quite lucky where we live, because we live in Derbyshire, and round the corner from where we are there's some lovely country roads. I obviously know all those country roads quite well because we've lived here for quite some time. There's loads of bends, hills, crests, all sorts of stuff to test the car out, and you really can have some fun. And of course, once you're on the national speed limit road, you're out of a built up area, no houses around, no pavement, so there's going to be no kids running across the road. There might be the odd pheasant, which of course might do some damage to the car, might do some damage to the pheasant, but I'm more worried about the car. You really can have some fun. And if you do get it wrong, I guess you'll probably only be hurting yourself. I think other people want to have a race as well. Do you know, is it just me, folks, or is it sometimes when you're driving a quicker car, I'm not going to say a fast car, but certainly a sportier, quicker car, that some other people seem to just want to race you? They don't seem to be happy to sit behind you if you're doing normal speeds, and I'm just too old to bother. I'm not saying I wouldn't have a laugh and a little play with them sometimes, but most of the times I'm not bothered. I'm quite happy to let them pass, let them get a bit of distance, and then have a play. And if we are going to have a little bit, oh, that's a bump. If we are going to have a little bit of a play in a race with anybody on the road, I would rather them come past me and me be the chaser rather than the chasee, because in my opinion, chasing a car is a lot easier and a lot more fun than being chased. What do you reckon? If I'm not being silly with the loud pedal, it's a really quiet place to be. I'm currently doing 60 miles per hour. It's in 6th gear, and to be quite honest, I could be sitting in a standard Clio. I wouldn't notice the difference. Unfortunately, and this is one of the negatives, I suppose, is it's also not very different inside here to a standard Clio. I've still got scratchy plastics, and the dash layout is all but identical. You get some rather nice seats. They are bucket seats, but they're not overly special. They're certainly not the seats that they fit in the McGann Trophy. Now, them seats are absolutely lovely. I'll put an image of those seats in the video now. But actually, the Clio, when you want it to be, can be a practical car. It's got a 300 litre boot. There's the space in the back for 2 adults. Isofix fittings if you've got child seats. We've got climate control, but it's not dual zone climate control. But driving now at 30 miles per hour, if it wasn't for the stiffer suspension and a little tiny burble coming from the back of the car from that lovely exhaust note, I could be in any Clio, to be quite honest. So because this is the trophy version, it actually has an overboost. So in 4th and 5th gear, it lifts the standard torque of 177 pound-foot to 206 pound-foot, and that's absolutely lovely. Oh, there's a bridge. That's what I need more bridges. Whoa. It gets to that rev limiter quick. We're doing some miles an hour. Whoa. If anybody's watching this video and they think a car that does 0 to 60 in 6.6 seconds can't be fun, you don't know what you're missing. That was fun. I have to do that again. So that is why I love my Renault Clio RS Trophy. Please like, comment below, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I'll see you on the next one. Here we go. Oh, go on. Round the bend. Get the Michelin Pilot Sports going. Into 3rd, and we go. Yay! Bit of mud on the road from the tractor, but there you go.